Look, I need to tell you something that most people don't realize until it's too late. And honestly, it might completely change how you think about building wealth. So picture this. You've been grinding. You finally hit that $20,000 mark in your savings account or investment portfolio. Maybe it took you 2 years, maybe 5. You're feeling pretty good about yourself. Your friends are impressed. Your parents are proud. You're thinking, okay, I'm doing this adulting thing right. But here's what nobody tells you. That $20,000? That's not actually a destination. That's when the real game starts. I know what you're thinking. Come on, $20,000 is a lot of money. And you're right, it is. For most Americans, according to the Federal Reserve's latest data, the median savings account balance is around $5,300. So if you've got 20 grand sitting somewhere, you're already doing better than the majority. You should feel good about that. But here's where it gets crazy. That same $20,000, the amount that feels so solid and secure right now, that's the exact threshold where everything in your financial life starts operating under completely different rules. The math changes, the psychology changes, the opportunities available to you, they transform entirely, and most people never figure this out because they stop at 20 grand. They park it in a savings account earning, what, maybe 4% if they're lucky. They think they've made it to some safe zone. They get comfortable. I mean, look, here's what I'm trying to say. The difference between having $5,000 and $20,000 is huge, right? You feel that security. You've got your emergency fund. You can sleep at night. But the difference between $20,000 and $40,000? That's not just double the money. It's like entering a completely different financial universe. Check this out. There's this concept in physics called escape velocity. It's the exact speed a rocket needs to break free from Earth's gravitational pull. Below that speed, doesn't matter how high you go, you're coming back down. But hit that threshold and suddenly you're in orbit. Everything changes. $20,000 is your financial escape velocity. Here's the thing most people miss. That first 20 grand is about defense. It's about not going backwards. It's your oh crap, my car broke down fund. It's your I hate my job but I can't quit yet cushion. It's security. And security is important. Don't get me wrong. But after 20,000? That's when you shift from defense to offense. That's when compound interest stops being a cute concept from your high school math class and becomes an actual wealth-building machine. That's when you finally have enough capital to make moves that were literally impossible before. And honestly, this blew my mind when I first learned it. So let me break down what actually happens after you cross that $20,000 line, because the numbers here are wild. Let's say you've got $20,000 invested and you're averaging a realistic 8% annual return. Nothing crazy, just basic index fund stuff. You know what that makes you in year 1? $13,000. Not bad, right? That's like a decent side hustle. But here's where your brain needs to catch up with the math. Year 2, you're not just earning 8% on your original 20 grand. You're earning it on $21,600. Then $23,328. Then $25,194. By year 10, you've got $43,178. But get this, you didn't add a single dollar after that initial $20,000. And in that 10th year alone, you made $3,178 just from your money working. That's more than the median American makes in an entire month from their job. Now here's what makes this absolutely insane. If you started with just $5,000 under the same conditions, after 10 years you'd have $10,794. That's awesome. You more than doubled your money. But you made $794 in that final year. Compare that to the $3,178 from starting with 20 grand. Same exact investment strategy, same time period. But 4 times the starting capital gave you 4 times the annual gains. This is what nobody explains properly. I've seen people grind to save their first $10,000, then basically quit because they think, well, 10 more thousand won't make that much difference. Wrong. Dead wrong. That second 10,000 is worth exponentially more than your first. But here's where it gets even better. And this is the part that actually changed my entire financial trajectory. Once you've got 20 grand working for you, you start getting access to opportunities that literally don't exist below that threshold. I'm not talking about some exclusive rich people club. I'm talking about practical, real-world investment options that have minimum requirements. Real estate investment trusts with higher returns? A lot of the good ones want $20,000 to $25,000 minimum. Private real estate syndications that can return 15 to 20% annually, they typically start at 25 grand, but now you're actually in range. You can save another 5,000 way faster than you saved your first 20. Angel investing in startups through platforms like AngelList? Guess what? You need to be an accredited investor, or you need to find platforms that allow non-accredited investors, and those usually want $10,000 to $20,000 minimums per deal. Below 20 grand in total capital? You're not even playing that game responsibly. I know what you're going to say, but those are riskier investments. Absolutely. I'm not saying put all your money there, but here's the psychology shift that happens. When you have $20,000, you can afford to take $2,000 or $3,000 and make a calculated bet on something with higher upside. When you only have $5,000 total, you can't. You shouldn't. That money needs to stay safe. The rich don't stay rich by being reckless, but they do take calculated risks with portions of their capital. And $20,000 is right around where you finally have enough capital to diversify properly and take strategic risks. Now let's talk about something that nobody really wants to admit. The psychological shift that happens when you cross 20 grand. Because this might be even more important than the math. When you're broke or just starting out, every financial decision feels like life or death. You're constantly in scarcity mode. Should I invest this $500 or keep it in savings? What if my car breaks down? What if I lose my job? Your brain is running a million disaster scenarios, and honestly, that's exhausting. There's actually research from Princeton and Harvard that shows financial stress literally reduces your cognitive capacity. They found that worrying about money can drop your effective IQ by 13 points. That's the difference between average and above average intelligence, just gone, because you're too busy worrying about keeping your head above water. But here's what's crazy. That stress doesn't linearly decrease as you save more. It drops off a cliff at certain thresholds, and $20,000 is one of those thresholds. Think about it. With 20 grand, you've got roughly 6 months of expenses covered if you're living on $40,000 a year, maybe 4 months if you're in an expensive city. That's real security. That's I can tell my toxic boss exactly what I think money. That's I can take a month to find the right job instead of desperately taking the first offer money. And when you're not operating from fear, you make completely different decisions. I mean, look, I've seen this pattern over and over. Someone builds up $15,000 or $16,000, and they're still in that scarcity mindset. They see a $200 course that could boost their career, but they hesitate. They hear about an investment opportunity, but fear holds them back. They stay in the safe lane because psychologically, they still feel broke even though they're not. But cross that 20,000 mark, something shifts. Not overnight, but it happens. Suddenly you're thinking about growth instead of just survival. You're researching tax-advantaged accounts. You're learning about asset allocation. You're thinking 5 years ahead instead of 5 days ahead. Here's the thing most people don't realize. Poverty isn't just about having no money. It's about having no options. And $20,000 is approximately where you transition from no options to several options. Your car breaks down? You've got options. You can get it fixed, or you can buy a reliable used car outright and still have a cushion. You hate your job? You've got options. You can quit and take 3 months to find something better. Or you can leverage that security to negotiate harder for a raise because you're not desperate. Someone comes to you with a time-sensitive investment opportunity that requires 10 grand? For the first time in your life, you can actually consider it without immediately panicking. But here's where it gets really interesting. And this is something I couldn't believe when I first learned it. The Bureau of Labor Statistics tracks something called the marginal propensity to save. Basically, as people earn more money, what percentage of that extra money do they save versus spend? You know what they found? People with less than $10,000 in savings typically save about 2 to 5% of any extra income. People with $20,000 to $50,000, they save 15 to 25% of extra income. Not because they're more disciplined, because psychologically, once you've built that foundation, saving becomes easier. The momentum builds on itself. So here's what actually happens in practical terms once you're past that $20,000 threshold, and why this completely changes your trajectory. Let's say you're earning $60,000 a year, pretty average salary in most American cities. You've got your $20,000 invested. Now every year, you're adding maybe another $6,000 to $8,000 if you're being disciplined. That's roughly 10 to 13% of your income. But remember that money you already have invested? It's making $13,000 in year one. So you're not really adding just 6 or 8,000 to your net worth. You're adding 10,000, then 11,000, then 12,000. Your wealth starts accelerating at a pace that feels almost unfair compared to when you were starting from zero. By year 5, if you keep adding that $7,000 annually and your investments are growing at 8%, you're not at $55,000, you're at $63,359. You just jumped from 20 grand to over 60 grand in 5 years. And in that 5th year alone, your investments made you $4,300 while you slept. That's real money. That's vacation money. That's I can take a risk on a career change money. And this is where most people completely miss the boat. They think the goal is to reach some magic number like $1 million. But the real goal, the real transformation, it's reaching the point where your money makes more money than your expenses cost you. Listen to this. If you're living on $40,000 a year and your investments are generating $40,000 a year, you're financially free. You don't need $1 million for that. You need somewhere between $500,000 and $600,000 invested at a reasonable return. And guess what? The jump from $20,000 to $500,000 is way faster than 0 to $20,000. Why? Because that 20 grand is already working for you. Here's what I'm trying to say. That first $20,000 is the hardest money you'll ever save. It requires discipline, sacrifice, saying no to things you want. It takes forever because you're building it from income alone. But after $20,000, you've got a partner. Your money is working alongside you. Every dollar you add has 19,000 backup dancers. Every percentage point of return gets multiplied by an increasingly larger base. The snowball is finally big enough to start actually rolling downhill on its own. So here's my challenge for you, and I'm dead serious about this. If you're below 20,000 right now, make that your singular obsession for the next 6 to 18 months. Not in a stressful way, in a focused way. Cut the subscriptions you don't use. Skip the weekend trips that aren't that important. Say no to the expensive dinners. Automate transfers to your savings or investment accounts so you never even see that money. Because I can't tell you how many times I've seen people drift along, saving a little here and there, taking 5 years to build what they could have built in 18 months with focus, and those extra 3.5 years, that's compound interest you're leaving on the table. That's opportunity cost you can't get back. If you're already past 20,000, don't stop. Don't get comfortable. Don't pull it out for something stupid. That money is not for spending. It's your wealth-building engine. Feed it, protect it, let it work. Every month you delay getting to these thresholds is a month of growth you're giving up forever. And look, I get it. Life happens. Emergencies come up. I'm not saying be reckless, but I'm saying that most people underestimate how much they're capable of when they're truly focused on a goal. Hit that subscribe button if this changed how you think about money. Drop a comment telling me where you're at in your journey. No judgment, just real talk. And share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because this is the kind of stuff they definitely didn't teach us in school. Your future self. The one living off investment income. Making decisions from abundance instead of fear. That person is counting on the decisions you make right now. Don't let them down.